Yo, so what it do, guys? It's Sir Bag, and I just wanted to start calling myself a modern philosopher. And the only way for me to feel like I could do that is to like research and talk about it. And other than like just journaling, like writing it down, I was thinking maybe I could just start speaking it out loud. Um, so I just want to talk about that. Really, I wanted to be a writer, like specifically anime style. I really liked anime and animation and stuff. So, but I really like just like the psychological aspect to it. And yeah, I'm reading off notes because it is kind of like a video journal. If you guys don't watch it, it's whatever. I just want to see who will watch it and if you want to give your opinion on my ideas and everything. So I started looking up philosophers and psychology, and it made me think of like the first question that I really wanted to get answered, like what is psychology really? Well, if you think about it, psychology is just a way of life, but what is life at that point? Then I just started like going down those questions, like what is the philosophy of a plant then? You know? Are they just stuck in a way of like life? Like, but then if I really thought about it, it's like I feel like plants' philosophy shows in their way of life. Like them trying to if a plant is in the shadow, it's gonna try to branch out its leaves just to be able to still touch the sunlight, so that it'll still try to nutritize, like give itself nutrients just to live longer. So a plant life is it trying to live, and it living is probably just feels good, content in some way, but we wouldn't really know that because the thing is that like humans have sentience, which is consciousness. But then at the same time, if you think about it, animals are conscious. So we can verify that there are different stages of like consciousness. Like that means that there may be different formulations of what consciousness is, because if an animal is sentient but we can't say that it's consciously aware, then we could get to that part. Then I wanted to say another take that I was also thinking about while researching everything that I'm researching is humans create religion. Now, I don't know what your interpretation is of religion, but in my opinion, religion is just the old school social approach to a world philosophy, or the way the world should see life and how they should live life in the everyday fashion. So I would say that we are tribal at heart and we all are organisms. Now, what is an organism? At least things that are living is organism. And we could get into that distinction later too. But well, an organism is just a clump of cells working together in harmony to survive. What I'm getting at is that your body is a tribe with different organs living in you trying to work together. So it's kind of like I think of like a virus is basically like DNA in a way without a nucleus, which is a organ inside of a organism, which is not even an organism. Like a cell is basically like an organ by itself. I'm not like a biology major or anything, like I said, self-studied philosopher. So what I was getting at is we all work together and then we all become a body. So most religions, in my opinion, is explaining that the underlying understanding is that we are all connected by the fact that we are all conscious, and not just conscience. Like I feel like inanimate things are still technically conscious. And the way I can explain that too is the fact that um it's kind of like when you're unconscious and you go into surgery, even though you didn't remember it, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So you may be not conscious during the experience, but something else may have. And the only thing that can be conscious are things in reality. So everything may be conscious, just at a different stage, even though humans increase their consciousness with awareness. And I would say some examples of that is Shintoism, Buddhism. Shintoism, I will give, because different things is basically like different gods or entities in a way. I'm not a religion expert, but in a way, that's kind of what it is. So, like, you give your prayings or blessings to everything because everything is kind of its own thing and it does its job. Buddhism is, you meditating. You're kind of like your own God, but you're not God at the same time. Or I think that's Taoism. Uh, that that one is real difficult for me. See, that's why I'm not an expert. Christianity, I was under the umbrella growing up under Christianity, so I definitely understand what the body of Christ is. But it's also love thy neighbor. So if you love thy neighbor, and if everyone is a Christian, the body of Christ is just giving love and affection to God and what He gave you. So basically, that is encompassing the same thing. But what Christianity specifically attacks is something we're going to get into. Judaism, we can even talk about Hinduism and how like they give different aspects of nature its own thing, and every god kind of has its own counterpart, and they kind of need each other indirectly, even if they're just doing their own thing. So, and even Scientology, I'm no religion expert, telling you, but I feel like Scientology might be the next world religion for the next coming generations. It may be a stretch, but it kind of remind me of like Nietzsche. If you guys look up this guy named Nietzsche, he's the guy who says God is dead. He kind of gave me this conclusion just because of the fact that he basically saying like if you look beyond good and evil, that's kind of like, we'll get into that. So humans are organisms that develop their left side of their hemisphere of their brains for language and long-term communication. And I specifically put this part into it because if you look at chimpanzees, which is our closest like relatives, they focus mainly on like short-term memory, split glance kind of mechanisms and such. And depending on how they develop, not saying that we probably did have go through evolution. To be honest, we can't even really say that Scientology is true, that we actually went through evolution from whatever to whatever. But at the same time, we can say that our DNA is completely close to chimpanzees, at least 99%. So we can see them, and if they did evolve, because technically I feel like we are evolving as a people. If we learned how to do technology and tools and such, then chimps evolve in their own way, and the way they did was understanding recognition of things and understanding the new diseases that could be out there and living in the wild in general when humans are just destroying their habitat. Our consciousness is the ability for our brain, the organism, to use its prefrontal cortex to be aware of itself living. So that's us just using our brain just to realize, oh, okay, so I am living. These are the decisions that I do. And if I make these decisions, this could happen. And then I could predict what the future outcome of certain outcomes are. Now, mainly using the dominant left side, because the left side is really just logic, but it's on the right side too. It's just not as prominent, meaning that like I feel like that's the reason why we could make certain emotional decisions, and I'm gonna get to that part. But I would say look up the guy named Phineas Cage if you guys don't want to, or like you want to do your own kind of research. But he basically had a pipe go through his head, and from then on he was still alive, but his whole personality changed, And I just feel like that was just a function of a part of his brain that just wasn't working properly anymore, probably connected to his prefrontal cortex. And then he was just different. So the left hemisphere of the brain is mainly logic, and the right hemisphere is reason, or I like to jog it up to emotion. Not to say your logic cannot spark emotion. Most people do that subconsciously, because like if something like logically upsets you, then you may get upset. It'll interact with the right brain, and the next you know, your adrenaline start pumping, and then you will actually get upset. So like, and subconsciously, there's these things in like psychology called like scripts, where then like you'll have like mental scripts inside your mind that kind of just goes through your mind, and that could kind of preset what your emotional reaction of every day is really, because it's what you basically telling yourself every other second. So, and also in religion, they call the prefrontal cortex, in my opinion, the ego. But in psychology, we know that the ego is actually a real thing. So then that could kind of like confirm, because, you know, in psychology, it used to be a pseudoscience, but now it's an actual science because we could actually prove these things. Your right is your feelings of your organs in a way. So like the right side of your hemisphere is like the feeling of your organs in a way. And why I feel like disassociating is a thing. So that's the reason why I feel like disassociating is a thing, because the right side of hemisphere of your brain is the hemisphere for like reason and emotion. So I feel like if your left side is the more dominant one, that's the more logical one, then when you disassociate or pull yourself away from whatever situation you don't like you go fantasize or you imagine something, that's you leaving your right side, or not really leaving your right side, but you're quieting the sensors between both sides, so you're not feeling the emotions that's going on, even though the emotions are still going on. You're just not feeling it. So you're just like cutting off a different side of yourself. On the other hand, being a slave to the right side can lead to bad choices and being made in the short term. That's like that's like eating a cupcake every morning just because you feel like you need some sugar, not because you're diabetic, even though that might be too much sweets for a diabetic to have in their regulatory manner. But I kind of think of it as like the right side handle all the organs, like your heartbeat, and then we handle us going to jog, so that our heart doesn't have to work so hard on a day-to-day basis, except for when it does something strenuous like jogging or running or sprinting. So giving it exercise. And I could really go on forever. But I just want to say that I like using progressive essentialism as my way of like just processing the world in this way, shape, or format. And that's kind of like the philosophy I like. And I can explain it to you in another video. But my final take is humans are just self-aware animals that like to like deify themselves like some kind of god or something. And I just want to put those thoughts out there on display. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below if you're an actual philosopher and you went to school for this and you actually study and everything. You could give me the facts, because I don't know, this is really all I do, all I research. I'll try to drop a video like this once a week, just in case if I do get people commenting, just so that I can, update my awareness on things. And I want to know what you guys think about all the points that I gave, and if I'm just reaching, or am I really, connecting some lines that people aren't really connecting. So that's about it, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what's up. Yeah.